Hello, my name's Kevin Slack of Green Space Architects, and I'm here to talk to you about how we design bespoke low energy homes. I have a wide range of experience across a whole range of sectors over 35 years, and now focus on houses and housing from our bases in Midlands in Shropshire and in the southeast in Buckinghamshire, plus a partner at the NSBRC in Swindon. We work on projects all over the UK, from Durham to Cornwall to Hampshire, and a lot going on in the middle. We say we're underpinned by sustainable design principles because they're not the be-all and end-all of design, but you've got to be practical, you've got to be low energy, but you've also got to be beautiful. We think that you're going to spend a lot of time here, and in the end, however sustainable it is in terms of energy and materials, the place has to be beautiful and you have to love it. We take a fabric first approach, which looks at the siding, what the envelope is made of. That's the walls, floor and roof, taking in the windows with air tightness and as important as U values and daylighting. Again, if you live in a bungalow, you should never need the lights on during the day. And then backing that up with low energy lighting, low energy equipment, with any remaining demand met with sustainable renewable sources such as biomass or heat pumps. Just a few of our recently completed projects. I'll be focusing on this house at Graven Hill, which is a SIPS build, and was shortlisted for Best SIPS and Best Architect for a Self-Build in the recent Build It Awards. This house was also shortlisted for Best Offsite Manufactured Home in the 2019 Build It Awards, and uses the MBC Passive House timber frame system on top of their passive slab, which it's all cold bridging to the ground as well as across the walls and roof. And this house on a steeply sloping site in Gloucestershire is a hybrid system with Durasol ICF on the ground floor, forming partly retaining walls into the slope, with a SIPS timber frame, a SIPS frame on top, sitting on top of precast concrete planks. In terms of conversions and existing buildings, this property on the Isle of Wight has internal wall insulation and very fine detailing and craftsmanship to create a holiday home, two-bed holiday home from some former farm buildings. This chapel conversion in North Wales actually has an entire timber frame built inside it, even with its own windows, and to form basically a new building within the shell of an existing one. And this Grade 3 listed house in Shropshire has the canal's internal wall insulation system, plus floor insulation and roof insulation, and double glazing and an MVHR system to create a highly performing house, which is still full of traditional detail internal and externally, with modern areas like the kitchen to complement that. Very low running costs for the size of the property, which is 535 square meters. Some current projects. We currently have 3 houses on site. This one at near Salisbury is a Frame Technologies timber frame with additional internal insulation on a steeply sloping site with masonry foundations and a beam and block floor. This near passive house standard Velox ICF project just north of Leicester is due for completion later this year. We have another Durasol house on site just south of junction 15 of the M4 near Swindon, which is an earth sheltered house. And then due to go on site in the spring is this house in Shenley, just inside the M25 north of London, again on a sloping site, so it's single story on the rear, 2 stories on the front. ICF base again, hybrid system with a timber frame or SIPS panel above, not quite determined yet. Similarly, in a similar sort of area in North London, 4 houses on a sloping site, again two stories at the rear this time, single story on the front, using ICF for a series of 4 houses, very similar, with actually basement swimming pools. And we take the lessons learnt from bespoke houses for owner-occupiers to bring into social housing, housing for the homeless, and market housing. For instance, this modular scheme for Shropshire Council in Shrewsbury, where we have clusters of bungalows around a walled garden, which not only deals with energy use, it deals with loneliness by encouraging social interaction. Each of the clusters is then connected to other clusters by car-free routes through community orchards, community allotments, village green, and a wild, biodiverse woodland area with an adventure playground. All traffic kept to the perimeter, but a bus being less than 500 metres away. Similarly, with market housing and affordable housing, this project for an open countryside location in North Shropshire, where all the roofs form the same curve when viewed from a distance and looks like a piece of modified hillside, with a concentration being on the creation of wonderful public realm, public spaces between the buildings. Because we think that if you're going to extend a village, it should be at least as nice as the nice places that you enjoy already, and have a focus like this, a village green with a village hall on the left, and a shop, cafe, and combined heat and power plant for district heating on the right, where the chimney is turned into a viewing gallery to look at the surrounding landscape. The design process follows the similar plan using the RIBA's plan of work, which splits the project down into a series of stages which take you from the general to the particular and through to construction. So 7 stages: the important brief, the survey to understand the site or building, and then an option appraisal and concept design to set out what the thing's going to be about. That's followed by a scheme design, which is what you use at the stage you go up to planning approval, and then a technical design follows, tender process for getting prices in from the builders, then contract administration usually follows with the architect there, then post-contract work, and the elements in bold are the ones involved in the design stage. So the all-important brief. You have to know everything about what you want, but we want to understand why you're asking for what you're asking for, and encourage you to really think outside the box. You can have on day one absolutely anything. So what would it be? We have to apply constraints of cost, planning, planning policies, neighbours, sites. But on day one, you know, what really would be holds barred outcome for you, and then we try and hold on to that through the design process to give you what more than you ever imagined you could dream of. Now we get a lot of pictures of existing buildings, existing interiors, materials sometimes, but some people bring us much more esoteric things that provide inspiration for the project. So from Basil Fawlty's Heads of Wildebeest Out the Window to somebody brought us one of this prints of Monet's paintings of Rouen Cathedral, saying, I'd like my sitting room to feel like this, in terms of light and colour, which we can advise on. A Swedish birch forest was inspiration for a suburban garden in Milton Keynes. and somebody else felt they wanted their sunroom extension to feel like they were in a pavilion in the middle of the Indian Ocean. So wonderful inspiration that we can use to bring it down to something practical for you, but that's absolutely tailored to what you want. So your brief should, as far as you can, set out what you want in terms of spaces, activities, qualities you're after, and performance standards to be met, materials, all these things, and usually following through with MMC, modern methods of construction. But we always think good buildings come from good engaged clients, that the more you give us, the more we can give back. And it's a dialogue where we go and discover what the building is on a bit of an adventure. But we can advise on budgets, but you need to invest in a design. It's not something that just happens. It's not something you can just comes free. And please employ someone who's trained to do what you're after. Now, as well as understanding what you want, the site offers us a lot of things free of charge. You know, the sun always rises in the east, sets in the west. It has views. It has privacy issues, perhaps, access points, access to gardens, and we can use all of those things to enhance your project and see how well your brief fits into those, however constrained it is or however open. They all have the same potential to inform the project. Now, this is the most important stage, we think, because it's what all the rest of the time and money is going to be spent on. So getting it right at this stage, which represents about 20% of our service, is absolutely crucial. So I'll use the first building I showed you that we've completed, the plot 153 at Graven Hill, and this is the initial option appraisal that we did for that. So when we got there, there's a master plan, yes, but there was simply a muddy field with roads laid out and lots of materials waiting to be used, piles of pipes, piles of stone, and perimeter fences. But this is the view from the plot, the big tree in front, view of Graven Hill itself, and we had to invent everything that went around it in order to give ourselves some context. So at Graven Hill, you get a plot passport, which sets it puts the constraints for where you can physically put the building, how maximum dimensions, maximum height, where the rear needs to be, where the services are, and so on. And you start to work with that. So our analysis begins with the sun path, how high it can be, how many stories, where the parking could be, and starts to look at other things. So when you've got potential buildings either side, in this case we've got the view and the road to the south, the garden to the north. So how do you make the most of that, bearing in mind the client's brief on the left? And it is a matter of, in this case, pulling the building as far forward as possible would get the sun as early as possible in the morning. Putting it as far back as possible would get the sun as early as possible in the afternoon. The diagonal line looks round the tree, looks past the parking, looks into the corner of the site, and gives us a feeling of enlargement by increasing the distances across the diagonal, and could be a key element in the design. Most people do this. Build a cube, it's the most efficient thing you can do. Bedroom in each corner, stairs and service spaces in between, perhaps a living, kitchen, dining space wrapping round with a secondary space, TV room or whatever, in one, divided off in one corner. But in this case, it's kind of missing a trick. We've got looking straight at the tree. We're not making the most of the sunlight. But if you do move away from this, it's automatically more expensive because you've got more external wall for the same sort of interior space. But there are good reasons for doing that often. So the first thing we tried was just turning that through a few degrees to look past the tree, look into the corner of the site. But it would get squashed into the area that we had to work with, which is the pale rectangle behind. So we thought, could we do both? We have a square thing on the ground floor and a diagonal thing on the first floor. And whilst it proved to be potential for that, is a bit complicated when you try and add one to the other. So we thought we'd have both on both floors. So here we have the blue square thing with a pink diagonal thing running through it on both levels, and everything becomes an interference pattern between the two. So on the ground floor, this gives us a wonderful open plan space, but in 3 distinct zones: dining at the front, kitchen in the middle, sitting room at the back, with a hived off snug TV room and bathroom utility and stairs in the darker corner. Upstairs, you get a big room at the front, big room at the rear, pulling forward and back to get sun at different times of day, secondary bedrooms in the corners, and bathrooms and stairs tucked into the darker spaces in the junctions. So the plan, whilst it looks superficially willful, has actually come from a thorough analysis of the site opportunities and the client's brief. The TV room did actually move to the first floor front in order to make the most of the view and the south southerly aspect, and the guest room moved to where the TV room is shown because it's the least used, least important space, and it doesn't matter looking at the back of somebody's car. What does it look like? At Graven Hill, there's a lot of opportunity to use claddings, metal claddings, timber claddings, flat roofs, roof terraces, balconies, pretty much anything you want, although some people still build standard looking developer houses, strangely. So what could we do with those? And the clients gave us lots of images about things they were interested in, and we've met those with exploration of these materials. So flat roof, 2 stories, could we add a 3rd story, perhaps bringing a pod at a later date, cutbacks to allow the sun in at different times of day, and that develops then into a 3D computer model. So we start to put a hard line on this. There's no construction information at the planning stage, although we've borne this in mind so that when it does come to it, we can easily accommodate different construction methods within the footprint we've got. But it starts to set out the actual thing and showing all the furniture. So it's terribly important that at all stages you understand how the spaces are going to be occupied to make sure everything will fit. Not just plans, 3D views. So here we have cutaway aerial views which show how all the spaces fit together. Great for people who can't read plans as well, but also to explore what the spaces will be like. And the first floor showing how the bedrooms work. It's kind of a pinwheel around a central top-lit staircase. And a view from the front to the rear to the front, and a long section showing the light coming in through the roof light over the stairs, bringing light in at all times of day somewhere in the house. Start to look at materials externally. Here we had Colourcoat Urban metal cladding in the dark colour and timber cladding in the timber cladding on the diagonal block. Overall view of the overall conception, and some CGIs give you an idea exactly what you're going to get before we go into more detail. And this is showing you how on the 30th of September, we've still got a sunny patio, perhaps the last time we want to eat out, that you can still at 2 or 3 p.m. I think this was, that you've still got access to sunlight at this time of day, despite what's in either side. And we put a couple of our own projects in either side as a bit of context. So explored further with a roof pod, street views, and the pitched roof, which was eventually adopted by the clients because they wanted some attic space plus some open to the pitch rooms front and rear. Street views. Established where we were going to go for scheme design and plots of passport compliance. So this is then refined into a scheme design that can be submitted for planning. So updated plans, the elevations showing materials in colour, all generated from the same 3D model. A cutaway to explain what's going on, and CGI from the front to show what the overall would be like, again with a couple of projects put in either side for context and from the rear. So once we get permission, we move into a technical design, which is about 40% of our service, and here we look in detail at all aspects of the project. So how everything is constructed, working with an engineer on the foundations and the superstructure, incorporating steel columns, steel beams, all the services, MVHR, working closely with the SIPS panel supplier, in this case Point One of Shrewsbury, who provide their own 3D model, showing how it all fits together, every joist, every duct, and so we can actually get the whole thing planned in advance before it starts going together on site. First floor and in section, and then each of those junctions, to get the level of refined detail that we wanted, is looked at in very large scale drawings, bringing together components like doors and balustrades, decking, along with the steelwork and things like bespoke hidden gutter details, and how everything has to line up from the very structure right up to the finishes. And that's turned into a set of working drawings that the builders can price and work from on site, and approval can be given by building control and also the warranty company, who in this case wouldn't accept timber across the roof. The materials were swapped around, that the square thing had the timber on it, and the pitched roof element on the diagonal was actually covered in fibre cement slates from Etex Exteriors. On site, the client project managed this himself, and with our details managed to produce an exceptional level of craftsmanship and finish. For instance, mitering the corner of fibre cement slates is extraordinarily difficult, and he's well, it's just incredible, with us visiting just occasionally, but the level of detail was such that he was able to take our drawings and implement them himself without any prior experience of building. And this is what we all want: a beautiful home, bespoke to the site, bespoke to you. If I'd worked with a different client, the building would have looked different, and they'd have different sensibilities, but all the time working together. And they can only do, it's not something you can achieve by landing a preconceived design or a kit home that's not been considered for the site and orientation. So I believe there's question time afterwards, and I look forward to meeting some of you there. I'll see you all soon.